welcome back to the Miraculous Mamas podcast. I'm your host, Elizabeth Joy. I am a certified birth doula and a prenatal coach, and I'm so glad that you are here. We believe in empowering women through storytelling and education. If you didn't listen to last week's episode, we had on Meg Boggs, and it was so exciting to talk to her again. She was one of the first guests when I started Miraculous Mamas a couple years ago, and it's been so cool to see her transformation, just kind of really stepping into who she is and just the influence that she's had now, standing in her truth and just being authentic, and that people have just flocked to her and her content because she's relatable and she's real, and she's so awesome. So if you didn't listen to last week's episode, make sure that you go back and listen to it. We are in May. Holy cow. Time just flies by, man. I have goals this year that I haven't even started yet. And I'm like, oh, the year's almost halfway over. I don't know if you're like me, but, come November, I'll be like, oh, I better start that since I have a month or two to try to check it off the list. But it's life. It happens. Time flies by. And I'm trying to learn how to be in the moment, to like really treasure these moments with Jovi, because I know she's only going to be this little once, and she's growing so fast. She's learning new skills and just changing, it seems like, daily. And so just really trying to be present with her and soak in the moments, but then also try to be a productive member of society. And it's like, how do you do both? So there are times where I'm like, you know what? I'm just not going to get much done today because I'm just going to play with my daughter and enjoy being her mom. And then other days, I'm like, okay, I need to actually get some things done. So trying to find that balance, I feel like, is really hard in motherhood. It's like, you have to do it all, but then you have to, do attached parenting and all sorts of different things. But I'm here to tell you, you do not have to do it all. No one can do it all. We're not meant to do it all. We're meant to live in community and to help each other out. And that just sometimes seems like something that's far off these days. If you don't have people around you that you can lean on, that can drop dinner off when you need it or take the baby when you need it, that's really hard. And props to those of you doing it with no family around or no community around. If you are looking for a community, we do have a great virtual one on the Miraculous Mamas Facebook group. So make sure that you join there. Leave us a review for the podcast, wherever you're listening. Rate and review. Let me know what episodes you're loving. Reach out to me. Let me know who you want to hear from, what guests you want on, what topics. Tag those people on Instagram and at them and say, hey, go on the Miraculous Mamas podcast, and then tag me in it so that we can get some really great content out for you. May is Maternal Mental Health Awareness. So we're going to have an episode talking about that. And it really is a real thing. I feel like although there's so much more awareness coming out, we still need help. Like, we need better options. We need better support. We need just more for moms. It's like, okay, yeah, we know that postpartum depression is a thing. Okay, but is help actually affordable? Is help accessible to you? Is help something that you can get when you maybe don't have any support at home or from your family or friends who just don't get it? Is it shameful for you to feel like you need to reach out? And just kind of breaking all of those stigmas. We just really need to do better at supporting moms. Moms are the life givers of the world. And it's just, I don't know. I feel like going through it now, you just like really see it. You see that this is hard. Like, even if you're not clinically diagnosed with postpartum depression or anxiety, you still have ebbs and flows and highs and lows, and your life's completely changed, and it revolves around a tiny human, and you have people fully depending on you for survival. And so it's hard to put your needs out there, and we need to do better at supporting each other. So I'm excited for our episode on that. Guys, today I have a wild episode for you. I have Melissa Lyon West, and she helps women who are tired of living in fear to help overcome self-doubt and to build confidence and self-worth so that they can live boldly. And what's so crazy about her story is that she is a cult survivor who is now a coach. She grew up in a cult. I'll let her tell you her story. And just has an amazing story of overcoming and breaking out of fear. And although I'm assuming most of the people listening did not grow up in a cult, we still grow up with norms and pressures and things put on us, either by our family or by society. And then when you're becoming a woman, when you're becoming a mother, you kind of have to break those old truths or beliefs and build new ones. For example, I've had a belief from the time I was really young that I'm not worthy. And that played into me developing an eating disorder at 13 years old, just that I'm not good enough. And I noticed that when I became a mom, a lot of those buried old beliefs came back up for me, that I'm not enough. Like, I'm never going to be enough for Jovi. I'm never going to be enough for Vito. I'm never going to be enough for myself, for my family. They deserve more than me. Even the best that I can do just isn't enough. And a lot of that came up for me, especially in those first couple months postpartum. And I had already done tons of work to try to break those they weren't true, those lies, but things that I had accepted as true, and replace with new beliefs. And I mean, it came back up. Motherhood brought that back up for me. So again, it's so important to have a support system, which I'm glad I did. And then also the tools to recognize that and be like, no, those are lies. Those aren't me. That's my past. That's not me. That's not true of myself, and be able to replace that again. So, like I said, although most of us probably didn't grow up in a cult, we grew up with just different beliefs and things that we accepted as true from the time we were little. And then just going through life, things add to that. So, it's important to come to a place in your life where you decide to get out of fear, to overcome self-doubt, to have confidence and self-worth so that you can live boldly as you are called to do so. So this conversation with Melissa is super interesting. I hope that you enjoy the interview, and we're going to dive right into it. Hey everyone, I have Melissa Lyon West here, and I'm super excited for this interview. She and I hopped on a call a little while back, and we just had such an amazing conversation. She has been through so much, and so I know it's just going to be really empowering for the listeners to hear her story, because, I mean, if you're dealing with anything in your life, she helps coach people, but just from her own story, she's just kind of overcome, restarted over, and just gone through so much again. So I'm super excited for you guys to hear her story today. So thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So I'd love for you to just kind of begin by just telling the listeners who you are and how did you get to where you're at today?
Yeah. So I am a mom of 4 little wildlings. I currently help women and those who are tired of living in fear to overcome self-doubt, build confidence and self-worth so they can live boldly. And that stems from the things that I have overcome and what I struggled with. I was born and raised in a cult, which, it's an interesting beginning. And because it was everything to me, it was my family, it was my friends, it was my education, it was my job. I really didn't know anything else outside of it. And so I was in it for a solid 30 years. And I'm only 35. Am I 35? 36. I'll be 36 next month. So yeah, the last 5 years have been a lot, a lot of learning and growing and coming from everything that I had been from, like a life of fear. I mean, it was wild. Men had all the power. Women had no control, no voice. Coming out of all of that, I just have so much passion to help other women really find their confidence and live in a way that really makes them happy.
Yeah. I mean, when you say like you grew up in a cult, that's just not something that you hear every day. I mean, I've never met anybody who has. It's like I've seen some documentaries, on Netflix about it. But that's just like not something that you hear very often. Do you kind of get that shock factor from people?
Absolutely. Absolutely. When I say that, people's faces are like, oh, and they kind of lean in like, I need to know.
Yeah.
To me, sometimes I forget that it's not normal, because it was my life. It was my normal. And so when I see people's faces, I'm like, oh yeah, this is not normal.
Yeah. Not something you hear every day.
No.
Yeah. All right. We're going to take a break from this episode so I can share with you a new partnership that I am so excited about because I've been using these products for well over a year, and that is Ancient Nutrition. You've heard me talk about them before. Dr. Axe was actually on the podcast about a year and a half ago, and then his wife Chelsea came on as well, and we talked about collagen and how it's great for you. And so I'm so excited to share this discount with you and this partnership because Ancient Nutrition has one goal, and that's to transform the health of every individual on the planet with the most powerful superfoods out there. So whether you want to improve your body, sharpen your mind, or just feel your best self, Ancient Nutrition makes supplements that get real results that you can see and feel. The one thing that I love about their collagen is that a lot of collagen out there is just one form of collagen, and they have a multi-collagen, which means that there's 5 different collagen types in it, which is the first and only collagen on the market with clinically studied ingredients proven to help reduce joint discomfort as early as day 1. It helps with fine lines and wrinkles after about 4 weeks, and it can transform your overall skin tone after 8 weeks. Another reason why I love the Ancient Nutrition collagen is because it dissolves into my coffee so easily, and it almost gives it this creamy texture, but it doesn't taste creamy. It's unflavored. It just kind of adds a little extra like fullness to the coffee. And it's a great way, especially if you are pregnant or breastfeeding or trying to conceive, to add protein into your diet. The majority of pregnant women are lacking in protein diet. Up to 97% are not eating the amount of protein that they need. So it's a great way to add that scoop in the morning to your coffee, your tea, your juice, and to get good protein in that's going to benefit your whole body. Also, I used their collagen, like I said, throughout my entire pregnancy, and I didn't get one stretch mark. I didn't really tear at all. And I know some of that could be genetic, but I also feel like some of it was because I was diligent about collagen before I started trying to conceive, and then throughout my entire pregnancy and my recovery. I've been taking collagen every single day for about a year and a half now. And I use a lot of Ancient Nutrition's other products as well. So I'll have to share some of those with you guys on Instagram. So right now, go to Ancient Nutrition, and they're offering 20% off your first order when you go to ancientnutrition.com right now and enter promo code MAMAS at the checkout. That's ancientnutrition.com. Enter promo code MAMAS for 20% off your first order. ancientnutrition.com. Enter promo code MAMAS at the checkout. Now, back to the episode. So I guess being in a cult, how did you find, I guess, life outside of that? Because like you said, your family, it was your friends, it was your community, it was your everything for so long. It was all you knew. So how were you able to break away from that?
Yeah, I got out in the weirdest way, honestly. I women were expected to stay home, take care of their kids and their family, and support their husband. And if you were extra, which I always tried to be like extra good, extra holy, you would like make everything you ever ate from scratch. You would make all of your clothes. You would, that kind of thing. So I went online to find some patterns for my children's clothes. And I came across this pattern designer and bought some of her things. And maybe 6 months later, she created a Facebook group that was like a safe place for moms. And I kind of secretly joined it because it wasn't really okay to be in things like that outside of our group. And it was the first time in my life I saw a space with women that was non-judgmental. And it blew my mind. There were people from all walks of life. You had atheists and you had Wiccans and you had devout Catholics and Christians and you had, women who were scheduling cesareans and women who were, home birthing in a tub. And it was just this safe space for everyone to be themselves. And if you didn't agree with something, you just didn't say anything. And it was amazing. And so maybe 6 months after that, I had a craft weekend, and I invited some of those moms up to Maryland where I lived. And the pattern designer who had started it came up, and we just hit it off. And she had experience with people like me in my group. And so she saw it and she knew what it was for what it was. And I don't know what it was about me or our relationship, but she just decided to stick with me. And for the next year, she would challenge me, and I would say like, oh, we don't do that because we don't believe XYZ. And she would say, oh, well, why is that? And she didn't make me feel stupid. She didn't shame me. She didn't, I was weird. I was weird. The way I dressed, like we didn't wear pants. We had to wear long dresses, cover our arms up to our necks. We didn't watch TV. We didn't go to the movies. We didn't listen to any kind of music outside of like church piano music. Anything fun, basically, we didn't do it. And she just encouraged me and challenged me and really taught me to think for myself. And at the same time, I'm seeing this woman who was so courageous, and she loved people she wasn't supposed to love. And she like befriended people on the outskirts. And I was so desperate for something like that. I had never seen anybody live so true to themselves, especially a woman. And so I was just so drawn to that. And it took a while. It took a while for me to gain the courage, and I took baby steps. For me, it was like saying out loud that I questioned things like, why should somebody else be in charge of my body? Or why should some man be able to tell me what to do? And there was definitely pushback from that. There was definitely some people who cut me off because of just asking questions. But once you get a taste of a little bit of freedom, it's quite addicting. And yeah, so 5 years ago, we left the church, and 3 years ago, we left the area, moved across the country to just completely start over.
Yeah, that had to have taken a lot of courage, though, to be able to do that. And you said we. So, when you say like you left a cult, like how did you get your husband to come? Because it sounds like the one that you were in, men were kind of in charge, and you didn't have a voice. So for you to be telling him like, we need out.
Yeah. So yeah, when I married him, I had to get our marriage approved by my dad. And my husband grew up in the same community. So he had a little different experience. My dad was in charge of the group. And his dad didn't come to the church. So his mom did, his dad didn't. So he kind of had a taste of normal life. And when we got married, I kind of was like, you have to go all in. You know, we follow the rules in this house. So we do it all. And so, you know, I kind of always say he was in it for me. Mm-hmm. And so when I was ready, I think he just had this huge exhale and he was like, yes, let's go. Yeah, there's definitely some sticky points there as I was finding my voice. It was not this lovely, graceful thing. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of anger. I had a lot of anger and I just let it flow. However, whatever was coming up, I just let it flow for the first time in my life. I didn't repress or push anything down. So that was difficult, you know, in a marriage when you just suddenly become this like really angry person. Mm-hmm. He's a peacemaker. So he definitely was such a great partner to have during this. It's been 5 years now since we left. And honestly, I feel like we're both not different people, but different people from whom we married. Mm-hmm. And we're getting to know each other in a completely different way because we're finally showing who we really are. Mm-hmm. So that's been fun and interesting. It's a little hard, you know, because we have 4 little people with us as we're trying to like establish this new normal. Mm-hmm.
We're going to take a quick break from this episode to talk about one of my favorite wellness brands, and that is Care of. All of Care of's products are formulated with good-for-you, clean ingredients that are backed by science, and they make everything so convenient to get in your vitamins and supplements. And what I did, because sometimes I just start taking random vitamins. I know that doesn't sound great, but I do. It's like I buy this vitamin over there, then this supplement over there, and then I'm like, what do I really need to be taking? And so they make it quick and easy to go online, and you can take their quiz, and it's an in-depth 5-minute online quiz that asks you questions about your diet, lifestyle, your health concerns to help address your specific wellness goals. And it's like getting a one-on-one consultation with a nutritionist, all without leaving your house. You get a personally tailored approach to your unique health needs. And as moms, partners, and business owners, women have a lot on their plate. Small routines like drinking a glass of water, taking your vitamins, or adding collagen to your morning coffee can go a long way in helping you prioritize your health and your self-care. And Care of helps support you with the ongoing guidance and nutrients tailored to your specific needs. Like I said, I like it because, first of all, it's all in a pack. So I'm not unscrewing random tops from different bottles to try to get this vitamin here and that one there. And I was able to go online and feel confident that I'm taking things that my body needs and that I'm just getting that additional nutritional support that I need in my life. So right now we have a great offer for you guys for 50% off your first Care of order. Go to takecareof.com and enter code miraculous50. That's takecareof.com and enter code miraculous50 for 50% off your first Care of order. Now back to the episode. So I would love to know how then, from everything that you've been through, how did you decide to become a life coach?
Yeah. So when I was coming out, I started going to therapy, and that was huge for me to have somebody that listened and gave me tools. So for a few minutes, I thought I was going to be a therapist. Once we came out, I definitely realized I was not cut out to be a stay-at-home mom. I mean, I was homeschooling, I was nannying, I was making all the things at home, and I really did not enjoy it. So I was trying to figure out what was next. And so I thought maybe therapy, because I really love the idea of helping people overcome, you know, the trauma and the pain from their past. So I looked into that for a few months, and that just didn't really feel right. And for the first time in my life, I was actually listening to my body, what felt right and what didn't. And so I really just honored that when it came up that it didn't feel right. So I took a little detour, moved across the country, helped start a nonprofit nature-based preschool. And while I was doing that, I came across a course, like how to use your gifts and your calling and figure out your purpose. And I took that, and it was like, what do you love to do? What do people ask of you? And it all kind of combined into life coaching, which I honestly didn't really know what that was. So I looked it up and I was like, oh, I don't know. This feels very masculine, very like go, do. And then I found a coaching program that was very heart-centered and very much about centering in what you want and what is best for you and how you can best serve. And that felt so good to me. It felt so good to find a way to use my pain and to use my past and to use my story and say, you know what, if I can overcome this, then I know you can overcome whatever, and really find that confidence. And honestly, it has changed my life. It feels like finally I have figured it out, like what is for me. And being able to see that transformation from a woman who has, low self-esteem, is in maybe a relationship that is just soul-sucking or abusive, leave and really stand up for herself is amazing. Watching women who have no idea what they're going to do now that their kids are in school find that career path that really lights them up. It just, it makes it all worth it.
Yeah. Well, you had said earlier when you were talking to your friend, you kind of got a taste for freedom, and that freedom can be addicting. And, with coaching, you help people move from fear to freedom. How were you able to move from the fears in your life, and how did those show up for you as you were like taking each step along the way to get to where you're at?
Yeah. Fear is a constant companion, honestly. I always had the concept that you had to overcome fear and you had to become fearless, and then you could change your life. But for me, everything felt scary. I mean, making friends at the library felt scary, even though they were a mom just like me, because it was so different. Everything was so new. And so I kind of learned that fear had been trying to take care of me, right? She was doing her best. I kind of think of her as like a person. She was doing her best to protect me. And, that's what fear is. It's this feeling inside that's trying to keep us from harm and things that are uncomfortable. And so I just kind of learned to befriend her and say, I know you're trying to take care of me, but it's time for you to get in the passenger seat, and I'm going to do what I need to do. And when I realized I could still be afraid and do courageous things, that they could go together, I think that was really life-changing for me. And I just set my eyes on this path that I wanted. And it was scary, but I would just do one little thing at a time. I didn't just pick up and leave altogether. I just, one of the big things I did was I decided to stop lying. Mm-hmm. I lied about everything, about my feelings and about my beliefs. And because when you're trying to fit in somewhere, you say what you think other people want to hear. And for me, I think that was escalated because there was only one right way to believe and to think. And so one day I decided, this is after I had met my friend, after a few months, I said, I'm going to stop lying. We had missed an event because my husband and I were fighting, which is not okay. You cannot have marital problems. You have to be totally great all the time. And somebody asked me why we hadn't been there. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. And I said, oh, we were having a fight, so we didn't make it. And I didn't die. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, what else can I tell the truth about? Mm-hmm. And, in very small ways. And I think that's the way that I had the courage to make these massive changes, is by doing the really small things that felt doable in the moment.
Everything that you're saying, I can just see how it also applies into motherhood. I feel like in motherhood, whatever path you take to get there, there's so much selflessness that comes with it. And a lot of times you learn to put yourself on the back burner. And then people will say, make sure you take care of yourself. Make sure you take time for yourself. And you're like eye rolling, like, okay, like that's going to happen. But I think even just little things like you said, learning not to lie. And it's not like you're obviously telling these like huge lies, but when people are, you know, when you get asked certain things, it's like, no, I got it. No, I'm okay. No, this. And it's just little things instead of being like, hey, this is really shitty right now. Whatever it is. And, you know, it's like you almost can't tell the truth with some things. But I mean, it's okay to be honest. And like you said, you're not going to die, but it also doesn't mean that like, just because it's like a crappy situation right now, it doesn't mean you don't love being a mom. It doesn't mean you don't love your kid. But it's okay to be validated in how you're feeling in the moment. And I feel like in motherhood, that just kind of takes a big backseat.
Yeah. And I think we feel a lot of guilt over having those feelings. You know, if I don't love being with my kids 24/7, I don't want to say that because then people will think that I'm a bad mom and that makes me feel bad. One thing that I found was the more honest that I was, the more connected I felt to others. So when I was coming out, I would tell my story to everyone. I mean, like I said, like I would go to the library with my kids and a mom would sit down and 5 minutes later, she's hearing my whole life story. And it was really a way for me to like own my story and kind of process through it. But what I found was so many of these people that I was talking to, often moms, because I was in the same space, they would like be nodding their head and saying, oh yeah, that makes total sense. Even though I came from this, you know, really oppressive cult, they were like, I feel like I can't say what I feel, or and so I feel like there's so much community building when I started to share my story. And you know, Brene Brown and her work is just, it's amazing. And she talks about, you know, the shame keeps us quiet and keeps us disconnected. But when we start to share, you know, I really struggle with an anxiety. I had really bad depression after my 4th postpartum depression and then regular depression because I was, you know, kind of being ostracized from my group. And when I started to share that, other women would like send me private messages and they'd be like, I feel the same way. And it gives you so much power when you own your story rather than feeling afraid of sharing, afraid of connecting. Because yeah, we all struggle with the same things.
Yeah. We're going to take a quick break from this episode so I can talk to you about BetterHelp. BetterHelp has been a part of my mental health journey and my postpartum recovery as well. It doesn't always have to be physical. There's so much mental that goes into motherhood, into this transition in your lives. And there's no shame in having a counselor to talk through these things with and going to therapy. It can be so healing. I've found motherhood to be a very healing time in my life, kind of reflecting on the things that I need to work on and change. And so it's been really great using BetterHelp to be able to have that confidential resource that I can work through these things with. And it's not just for postpartum and motherhood. I mean, any area of your life that you're going through and you need a little help, whether you're depressed or have anxiety, dealing with family issues, relationship issues, sleeping trauma, you can find so many different professionals in these different areas to work with. They're always confidential. It's convenient. It's professional. It's affordable. And you don't have to wait in some awkward office waiting to see your therapist. And in fact, so many people have been using BetterHelp that they are recruiting additional counselors in all 50 states. So start living a happier life today. And as a listener, you'll get 10% off your first month by visiting betterhelp.com/mamas. Join over 1 million people taking charge of their mental health. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/mamas. So like, I think being like kind of taking that, being able to say out loud, you know, those things that you're struggling with, kind of requires confidence, which is another thing that you see kind of takes a hit when you're in that motherhood space sometimes. So what advice do you have for those listening, how to kind of gain confidence?
Yes. This is one of my favorite things to talk about because it changed my life so much. I mean, I went from this person who I couldn't have a conversation with you. I couldn't have a conversation with a normal person. I'm air quoting that because no, I don't think anyone's normal. To now, I mean, I can talk to anybody. I just feel like I make my life choices based on what I want and not what other people think. And the shift is it's just so powerful. But it takes time. I think one, just giving yourself grace and saying like, okay, this is where I'm struggling. One huge thing I did was I joined that mothering group on Facebook that's very similar to your group, that supported me as I would like speak up and speak out. That really helped, having a support group that didn't judge me. When you're trying to build your confidence and you don't have anyone to support you or build you up, that can be really difficult. So finding one or two people that can support you, or finding a safe space, within a mothering group or something like that, I think is so, so helpful. And then another thing that I did, I mentioned like just, slowly telling the truth and, just being okay with people's reactions. I mean, for me, it started with, just saying like little questions and being okay with people's responses. And, once I left, of course, I lost lots of relationships. Lots of relationships are strained. Some are completely cut off. But because I did things slowly, I was able to sustain my mental health kind of from that. So I think just taking the small steps and really figuring out like what you want, what you really want. And then just figuring out the support system for that. And then taking one small step. Do not discount the small steps. I mean, if I looked back 5-10 years, I would not, or I should say, if I look forward, I would not recognize myself now. But I only ever took really small steps. And I think that's really important.
Just take a step.
Yeah, exactly. Just start. Just one small thing. Absolutely.
Yeah. But those things really do make a difference. At least I know for me, just like if I can do like one small thing a day to work towards something, it's like you start, I guess the confidence is the word. You start to kind of gain that confidence of like, oh yeah, I can do this. And then I don't do it for a few days. And I'm like, oh, I suck at life. I can't do it.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's the same as if you're running a 5K or working out, you just start. You just go one time, you do a little bit. And that doesn't mean you can run the 5K the next day. Maybe it's going to take 6 months. But I say the same thing to my clients. Like, it's building courage muscles. It's building bravery. And you've got to start. Just do one little thing. Just reach out to one person. Just find that safe space. Just speak the truth out loud, whether it's, something that you've been keeping inside.
And confidence is something that kind of plays into so many different areas of your life. So gaining confidence in one thing kind of trickles or has that ripple effect into your whole life. Like, I feel like, I don't know, for some reason, maybe just because this is a motherhood podcast, but like motherhood just kind of keeps coming to mind because you're, first of all, like not educated on all the stuff that comes with it. And then they're like, here's a baby, go take care of it. And your confidence gets hit on things that like have nothing to do with you. This baby's trying to survive in the world. You're trying to survive in your new role, in your new body, in your new everything that's happening. And sometimes things just suck, like your baby's not nursing well or eating well or sleeping well. And you feel like you're not doing the best you can when it has nothing to do with you. So I feel like just kind of as women and in motherhood roles, you get these messages along the way. Like even before you start getting or having babies, or if you're dealing with fertility issues, or when you're pregnant, it's like, oh, you're not doing this thing right. You need to do it this way. So you're constantly kind of getting these messages along the way that are chipping away at that, like before you even become a mom. And then you have this tiny human showing you that you're doing it all wrong.
Yes, and they're crying and you don't know what to do.
So I feel like, confidence is one of those things that does kind of take a hit when you kind of have that lack of support and education as a new mom, and there's no handbook for all the things that pop up.
Yeah. And I feel like we have so much information. We have so many books. We have so many resources. So many, Google searches can give us 17 different opinions on one thing. And so we're constantly doubting ourselves. And, we'll make it, I feel like for me, I'll make a decision, especially when I was, in the cult, I would make a decision and in my parenting, and then almost immediately I would doubt it. Mm-hmm. And like you said, it's takes such a hit to your confidence. It's so draining. It takes the joy out of any part of, of it. And I feel like once you start to give yourself grace, and once you start to realize that you are doing the very best you can and nobody else knows your family, your baby like you do, mm-hmm. It starts to give you the confidence to make the choices that feel right for you, rather than what your community is saying or what your friends are doing or what your mom says you should do or your grandmother. I think just giving yourself permission to be yourself, mm-hmm. and to say that doesn't feel right. I'm going to do this. Mm-hmm. And that once you make that decision, that's the best decision for you. Mm-hmm. And until you know more or feel differently, that's okay. Mm-hmm. You can change your mind down the road. And that doesn't mean that you were a bad mom before, because goodness, mm-hmm. I did so many things when, I raised my kids in the cult for 7 years. And so I did a lot of things that I'm like very against now, mm-hmm. but I was doing the best I could with what I had at that time. Mm-hmm. And I was the best mom for those kids at that time. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, like getting emotional. And now I know better, and now I'm doing it differently. Mm-hmm. And now I'm still the best mom for those kids.
Right. That's so good. Mm-hmm. And man, yeah, that's so good. I feel like it's hard too, because you don't want to step on people's toes, right? Like when somebody's telling you like, oh, hey, do it this way or whatever. And just like you said, just kind of being honest and being like, actually, I like doing it this way. And for some reason, we take that as that person's being bitchy or whatever when it's mm-hmm. not, instead of just being like, oh, okay. Like giving you your space to like do the things you want, or, be like, oh, thank you for that information. I actually prefer this.
Yeah. Our society has taught women that they have to be nice. Mm-hmm. And we think,
or agreeable. You have to be agreeable.
Agreeable. Yeah, I should say agreeable. We have to be agreeable. And when I was like trying to figure out how to say, I didn't know how to say no, or I didn't know how to say, I had to get a book on how to say, like if a friend asks you to do something and you didn't want to do it, I didn't know how to say no. Mm-hmm. And so I had to like practice. That sounds great. I'm glad you're doing that. I'm not available to do that right now. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. That's so great for your family. That's not right for us right now. I literally had to practice these things. I had to read them in this book, because we are never taught. We're never taught how to, or maybe not never. For me, at least, my experience was I was never taught how to voice my own opinion. And I have noticed in our culture, mm-hmm. so many women just feel like they have to be agreeable, whether they completely disagree or whatever. I have taken just going, that's interesting. And it was just my fault. It was just like my go-to. So I didn't have to stress out, mm-hmm. because I wanted to stop lying. And if you said something that I didn't agree with, my pattern was to be like, oh yeah, that's great. Even though if I didn't feel that way. So now I just go, that's interesting.
So now anybody listening,
yes, if you're in a conversation with me and I say that.
Interesting. Well, when you were saying, when you were like, oh, that's great for you guys, that's just not right for my family right now, my first thought was like, it'd be easier to lie.
Yes.
So yes. I think that is something. I mean, if people are like, hey, you want to like go do this thing? Instead of just being like, not really. Like,
yeah.
And being like, oh, we actually have other plans that night, even though our plans, and then you justify it like, well, our plans are to stay home that night and do nothing. So technically I have plans.
Yeah, but we don't need to justify ourselves. Like if we don't want to go out, we don't have to go out. Mm-hmm. I had this friend who, she's one of my dearest friends, and she just says whatever she thinks, whether you like it or not. And sometimes, it can rub you the wrong way, mm-hmm. but I never have to wonder where I stand with her. Mm-hmm. I never have to wonder if she's telling the truth and that to me is so, so priceless because it's so rare to have somebody who's just really honest and vulnerable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely a skill that that I'm still learning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, just start with, interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah, but I think, obviously, yeah, you can be polite about it. You don't have to just be like, nah. But,
yeah.
it is, yeah, I guess we kind of are just taught to be agreeable and then to lie. And these stupid little lies for no reason.
Yeah.
You don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. But I'm like, if we ask people like, hey, we're going to go do this tonight. And they're like, oh, no, we're not going to go. I've never been like, what?
Yeah. Yeah. We
like
accept
offended.
it for other people, but not ourselves.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have Southern heritage. So there's lots of like passive aggressive kindness, like, oh, bless your heart. That kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Always about being falsely agreeable, I guess.
So I would love, I guess, just to like everything that you've gone through, like I know you're using it now. So what are the typical people who come to you? Like, why would somebody hire a life coach, I guess?
Yeah. So I have had stay-at-home moms who feel like they're drowning in their mom life and they've lost themselves. They don't know who they are or what they want. And so with people like that, we really work on creating a clear vision of what they want and then giving them the tools to build that courage, build that bravery, move past any fear to create a life that is sustainable for their mental and physical health, as well as their families. I have women who are not moms who struggle with speaking their mind, not getting in a situation where they feel like they just always have to lie. I'm working with a woman now who just has the hardest time speaking her truth. And so we're really working on building that courage and moving through that fear to have a life that makes her feel good in her skin and feel like she has a voice that's worth speaking. I have another client. I also work with men. I mainly focus on women, and I do gravitate towards moms because, I am a mom. Women whose, like I mentioned before, whose children are maybe in school now and they've maybe been a stay-at-home mom and they've really enjoyed that, but they are looking for something. What's next? I do deal with women who have suffered a lot of pain and trauma. Now, I'm not a counselor, so this is not you. They would first have to go to counseling, or maybe they've already been through counseling and they've dealt with some of that trauma and now they're ready to move forward. So coaching is all about looking forward and moving forward and creating actionable steps to go from where you are to where you want to be. Mm-hmm. And so, with my past of having, I had sexual abuse and physical abuse and spiritual abuse. And, I went to therapy for a while and then I got a coach. And that, with those two combined, I have a lot of experience with that. And so I love to help women learn how to move it out of their body and create actionable steps to move forward into a life that really just lights them up.
Mm-hmm. That sounds so wonderful. I feel like I So I'm actually a certified life coach. I did a program in 2015, but I haven't like actually really, I've coached a few people, but doula work is my passion.
Yeah.
And going through the program to get the certification was like amazing because you do so much self-work yourself.
Yes.
But you do come so far from that. Like that was 6 years ago for me now. And I feel like, I don't know, things do have to be revisited because you do change because who I was and what I was dealing with 6 years ago is like not even close to who I am and what I'm going
different
through
person.
now. Well, I mean, I wasn't married. I didn't have a kid. I didn't live where I live. Like I wasn't doing the career I'm in. Everything's completely different. But I feel like finding those little things that light you up are so huge. And they can be little things. Like I've noticed for myself, like one thing that I haven't done in a really long time, because I used to live in Las Vegas where it's warm and now I live in Chicago and it gets cold. But in Vegas, my friend and I used to always go to the park and we would walk barefoot and just like stare at the moon and the stars.
Yes. That sounds lovely.
Yes. And here I don't do that because, well, it's usually cold outside, but also like where we live, there's just a lot of light and it's hard to drive away from it to get out and actually look up. But I've noticed just since I've had Jovi, just every once in a while kind of like catching myself looking at the moon and instead of just looking away, like taking it in for a second and being like, man, I need to go out barefoot again. Like, you know, but it is little things and then you just have to do it. So I guess that's something that I just need to do.
Yeah. I find that a lot of my clients struggle with feeling worthy of taking the time. So self-worth is an issue that comes up with almost every single one of my clients. And feeling like they can take the time to, you know, drive out into the country and look at the stars or just stop for 5 minutes and look at something. And it's really sometimes not about the time. It's about feeling worthy of the time. Mm-hmm. It's about taking up space that somebody else maybe wants. You know, maybe my kids always want me. They always want me. But every 6 weeks, I take 24 hours off and I go like get an Airbnb and I just am by myself. And that is talking about being completely different. That is something I had to work on to be like, I am worthy. I am worth taking this time to refill myself so that I can, you know, be a better mom. So yeah, that's definitely something that I have come across with so many mothers, especially that we feel like we have to give all the time. That's exhausting.
Yeah. So if you're listening, you are worthy.
Absolutely.
You can tell the truth.
Yes.
And you're doing an awesome job, no matter what. Yes. No matter what you're doing. It is hard. I mean, this space, I feel like you don't get it until like you're really in it. And it was awesome that you're able to find that mom group because that's the type of group that we strive for in our community too, is people from all different walks just being able to come together and ask questions and do, you know, and know that they're not going to receive judgment, but that they'll be able to maybe find some confidence or a little freedom or whatever it is, which is like one of the major benefits I feel like of social media, especially during this pandemic stage, is being able to have some sort of online community, even though it can get, you know, it can be a rabbit hole of not goodness as well.
Yeah. I think if you find the right groups. Yeah. Cause there's definitely some groups that I've been in for 5 minutes and I was like, nope, not the place for me. Yeah. So if you find that really supportive group, I was so excited when I came across your group because it reminded me so much of what I had been a part of.
Yeah. I mean, it's great that you were able to find that. And, you know, for people who are listening, I think finding your community is really important. Finding people that you can be yourself with. You found that friend that who just loved and accepted you for all your weirdness.
Yes. Yeah. I kind of call her like the unicorn of people. She was just so amazing and like, yeah, just accepted me and stuck by me.
Yeah, that's so amazing. So for those listening, how can they come into contact with you? How can they connect with you or work with you? Where would be their best place to do that?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram at Melissa Lyon West, and my website is the same, melissalyonwest.com. When I was coming out of the cult, I would visit this friend. She lived in Alabama. I lived in Maryland. And I would visit her. She would come up and visit me every 6 months, and I would go down every 6 months. And I remember one time I'm sitting on her couch, and her older teenage daughter walks down the stairs, and she says, "Hey, Dad, can I spend the night at so-and-so's house?" And her dad looks at her and goes, "You're a grown-ass woman. You can do whatever you want. Did you mean to ask me for a ride?" And I was like, mouth open, right? I was just
Where
like,
am
what
I?
in the world? So she leaves and I'm like kind of laughing, and I raised my hand and I was like, where do I get permission to be a grown-ass woman?
Yeah.
So now I have my signature program is called Grown-Ass Woman. And it's 90 days to releasing fear and guilt, embracing your worth, and living boldly. And it's everything I have learned in the last 5 years to go from so fearful, so repressed to now just like living, you know, loud and proud and can't shut me up and just doing whatever the hell I want. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's everything I've learned kind of laid out step by step. And it's just my absolute favorite way to work with women, to take them from a place of lack and struggle and fear and self-doubt to this place where they're just lit up. They feel so confident. They feel so empowered to speak their truth, to maybe change their life, or maybe just live in a way that they didn't think was possible. Whew, yes. That's my favorite. It's my favorite.
Well, I can see that it lights you up. So it's awesome that you found your passion and pouring into that and doing what you love and helping others along the way. That's so amazing.
Yeah, I feel so grateful that like I get to make money helping women become so powerful. And then I get to see the ripple effect of what they do. I mean, I helped this one woman, she's an immigrant, and she now leads like hiking and backpacking excursions for women who are immigrants, so that they can really find healing in nature. And that's something obviously I can't do. I mean, I'm like a white woman who's, you know, born here. And so it was just so amazing to be just a tiny piece of this ripple effect that's changing the world.
Mm-hmm. That's so amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time and energy today, for sharing your story and sharing your work with us. Everyone who's listening, you can find all of her information in the show notes to be able to connect with Melissa. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It was so fun.
She's so much fun. I had such a great time talking with her. We chatted before the interview and talked for like an hour. She's so fun, and I cannot believe everything that she's been through. And I love that she just has the heart to help women now, to coach women, and to recognize that so many of us are living in fear, and helping us move out of that. Again, if you're listening, make sure that you leave us a review, that you let me know who you want to hear, that you check out the episodes for over the past year. I know a lot of people missed episodes during the pandemic, and there's some really, really great content in there. So make sure that you are checking it out. And we will see you next week. All right. Love you guys.
If you want to be the most interesting person at the cocktail party, well, hop on over and listen to the Brain Candy podcast.
Our award-winning content will have you laughing while you're learning.
We read all the best articles, books, and studies, and keep up with new TV shows, documentaries, and pop culture. And then we cram it all into 2 shows a week.
Conspiracy theories, cannibal rabbits, unsolved mysteries, the history of the Walkman. There's something for everyone.
The Brain Candy podcast. Find our link in the show notes.
Or simply search for the Brain Candy podcast on your podcast app.